Saudi Arabia is the world's largest producer of desalinated water, where researchers have
Saudi Arabia is facing one of the world's toughest water challenges. In a land with no rivers or lakes, how do they find enough water for millions? The answer lies deep beneath the desert sands, where millions of gallons of salt water are buried underground. This secret system is unlike anything you've seen before. But can it really save the country from running dry, and what happens if it fails? Join us as we look into how Saudi Arabia buried millions of salt water under sand and the unreal result. Saudi Arabia buried gallons of salt water under sand. Reports have been circulating that Saudi Arabia has been pumping millions of gallons of salt water into underground areas. As strange as that sounds, it turns out those reports are true. For years, Saudi Arabia struggled with water shortages, being one of the driest countries on earth. Yet today, they've managed to do something many didn't think possible, creating underground water storage systems. Even though the country doesn't have a single natural river, Saudi Arabia has no lakes, no rivers, and no permanent surface water sources. Still, since 2021, it has built over 522 dams. Where do the dams get water from? How has it been working for them so far? Stay tuned. The most interesting part is still ahead. These structures are mainly designed to collect rainwater and flood runoff. In a place where rainfall is rare, every drop counts. Most of this water is gathered through wadis, dry river beds that only fill up when the rare rainfall occurs. The country's rainfall patterns are highly limited, so any rainfall at all is seen as a valuable resource. Some areas do get lucky during certain seasons. Enough rain falls to provide water for entire cities. This water is quickly captured by the dams before the desert heat can evaporate it. Without dams, most of the rain would be lost. Temperatures are so high that water left out on the surface doesn't stand a chance. Instead, the dams hold it safely away from the sun. Together, Saudi Arabia's dams can hold a combined total of around 650 billion gallons of water. That's an incredible figure, especially in a desert region. One of the most important dams in the country is the Holi Dam. It's located 14 kilometers east of Kayad in the Makaka province. Construction began in 2003 and was completed in 2009. It's the second largest dam in the country with a storage capacity of about 249.86 million cubic meters. That dam plays a major role in managing floods, supplying local water, and helping groundwater levels recover. In just the Makaka region alone, there are 60 dams. Together, these hold a combined capacity of 232 billion gallons. Even with all these efforts, the dams aren't the country's main source of water. Most of Saudi Arabia's water comes from underground, not from artificial rivers or surface collection. Below the surface lies a massive supply of groundwater. Surveys suggest there are about 26 trillion gallons of water beneath Saudi soil. That sounds like an endless source, but it's not. Only a small part of this underground water is renewable, meaning it can naturally refill through rainfall. That renewable portion is about 739 billion gallons per year. This is the only water that can be used without worrying about running out. The rest, the majority, is called fossil water. It's ancient water trapped underground thousands or even millions of years ago. Unlike renewable water, fossil water doesn't get replenished because Saudi Arabia doesn't receive enough rainfall. Once it's used up, it's gone for good. This fossil water formed during a time when the Arabian Peninsula was far wetter. Back then, rivers flowed and rains came regularly. Over time, water soaked into the earth and became trapped in underground rock layers. That water is still there today, but it won't come back once it's pumped out. This ancient supply is now being pulled up and sent to homes, farms, and cities. It's a major source of life in a country that otherwise has very little. But there's a catch. Saudi Arabia uses far more water than nature provides. Water is needed for almost everything: drinking, cooking, cleaning, farming, and even for things like watering parks and washing cars. The demand is massive and the naturally renewable supply is limited. That's where the problem starts. Rainfall in Saudi Arabia is not only rare, it's also unpredictable. Some years might bring a bit more rain, while others bring almost none. there's no way to know for sure. That makes depending on groundwater, especially fossil water, extremely risky. It's like withdrawing from a bank account without putting anything back in. Eventually, the account runs dry. If extraction continues at the current rate, those underground stores may disappear. The population is growing, and so is the demand for water. Without another reliable source, the country could face serious shortages in the future. The government is aware of this risk and has tried to put systems in place to slow down water loss. Still, the challenge remains. Another effort the country has invested in is desalination, removing salt from seawater to make it drinkable. Saudi Arabia leads the world in this field. But desalination is expensive and energy-intensive. It's not a perfect solution. That's why collecting rainwater and storing it underground is still considered essential. Storing water beneath the surface reduces evaporation and helps preserve what little water the country gets. By hiding it below the sand, they are making sure it doesn't disappear into the dry desert air. Saudi engineers have even come up with underground canal systems to move water to where it's needed most. These systems don't rely on natural rivers but are instead built with modern technology, guiding water beneath the surface from one region to another. The water doesn't flow on its own, it's pushed through with pumps. It's an artificial network, but one that works well under the harsh desert conditions. The reality is that Saudi Arabia is facing a major water crisis, but it's handling it with advanced strategies. From hundreds of dams and underground tanks to tapping into ancient fossil water, the country is using every possible method to meet demand. These efforts might seem extreme, but in a land where water is as precious as oil, there are no easy choices. The buried salt water, the underground aquifers, and the stored rainfall aren't just part of some experiment. They're key parts of Saudi Arabia's survival plan. Without these systems, life in many parts of the country would not be sustainable. They've built a solution deep underground, hidden away from the blazing heat, where every drop can be saved. Beyond this, what further attempts have they made to meet increased water demands? Let's get into it. Saudi Arabia's further steps to meet rising water demands. As water demand continues to rise in Saudi Arabia, the government has taken additional steps to avoid future shortages. With the population growing and industries expanding, fresh water is now more essential than ever. To meet this growing demand, the country is focusing on new strategies that go beyond desalination and pipelines. One of the most important areas of focus is wastewater reuse. Instead of letting used water go to waste, Saudi Arabia is treating it and putting it back to good use. This process, known as water recycling, is helping to reduce the pressure on freshwater sources. The treated water is often used in agriculture, landscaping, and industries. The government has set a target to increase the reuse of treated water to over 90% by 2030. Achieving this goal would make Saudi Arabia one of the world leaders in water recycling. What about water use in every sector? How does Saudi navigate this too? Stay tuned, the answers will leave you impressed. Efforts are being made to improve water efficiency in every sector. Residential areas are being fitted with smart water meters that help track and control water consumption. These meters can detect leaks early, which reduces waste and helps households lower their water bills. In public campaigns, citizens are encouraged to adopt water-saving habits such as using low-flow taps and fixing dripping faucets. In the agricultural sector, where water use is traditionally high, the government is pushing for a shift toward modern irrigation systems. These include drip and sprinkler systems that deliver water more accurately and reduce waste. In some regions, farmers are moving towards hydroponic farming, where plants are grown in nutrient-rich water without soil. This method uses significantly less water compared to traditional farming. The push for better agricultural practices is also supported by strict regulations. The government has banned the cultivation of water-intensive crops such as wheat and alfalfa in certain areas. Instead, it encourages farmers to grow crops that require less water. To help them transition, financial support and training are provided through agricultural programs. Another important project is the construction of more storage facilities. Large water tanks and underground reservoirs are being built to store extra water during low-demand periods. These reserves serve as a backup during emergencies or times of peak usage. In some cities, advanced storage systems are linked directly to the main water network, allowing quick distribution when needed. Saudi Arabia is also focusing on using renewable energy to power its water infrastructure. Solar-powered desalination plants are now being tested in remote areas. Systems reduce the cost and environmental impact of turning seawater into fresh water. The government sees this as a long-term solution, especially in areas far from the national electricity grid. In addition, the private sector is playing a larger role in water supply. The government is offering contracts to private companies to design, build, and manage water plants. These public-private partnerships are expected to increase efficiency, reduce costs, and bring in global expertise. Investors are particularly interested in new technologies that can improve desalination and water reuse processes. Digital technologies are also helping the country manage its water better. Saudi Arabia is using data analysis and artificial intelligence to monitor water networks, predict future demand, and detect system failures in real time. These smart systems improve planning and make the overall network more reliable. By automating much of the system, water losses from leaks and overuse are significantly reduced. One of the largest ongoing projects is the National Water Strategy. This plan outlines how Saudi Arabia aims to secure its water future over the next few decades. It includes targets for cutting water consumption, increasing reuse, expanding desalination capacity, and building stronger regulations. Under this strategy, water tariffs have been adjusted to reflect actual usage, encouraging people to be more mindful about their consumption. International cooperation is another part of Saudi Arabia's water efforts. The kingdom is working with global organizations and research institutions to find innovative ways to tackle water scarcity. In 2023, it launched the Global Water Organization to promote knowledge sharing, support water projects, and attract investment. This effort shows Saudi Arabia's growing role in global water security discussions. Urban planning is also being revised with water in mind. New cities and industrial zones are required to include water-saving designs from the start. Buildings must use efficient fixtures, and many developments are now built with their own small-scale water recycling systems. Even green spaces are being designed to use minimal irrigation. Finally, the country is focusing on raising awareness. Schools, universities, and community groups are regularly involved in campaigns that teach the importance of saving water. Events, workshops, and media programs highlight the reality of water scarcity and encourage responsible usage across all ages. Through these combined efforts, modern farming techniques, smart technology, stronger regulations, private investment, and public education, Saudi Arabia is building a more secure water future. Each step plays a part in making sure that even in one of the driest places on Earth, clean water remains available for generations to come. Now, let's go back to the construction of the underground river. What are the specific details we need to know? Let's dig deeper to find out. Building the underground river and greening the desert. In building the underground river, Saudi Arabia faced a huge challenge: how to bring water from the Red Sea and the Persian Gulf to its dry inland cities. To solve this, engineers designed an underground pipeline system that would carry seawater across the harsh landscape. Building this underground river was a remarkable engineering feat. The pipeline had to pass through the Hijaz Mountains, where the rock is very hard, made of dense granite and limestone. To carve through these mountains, engineers used tunnel boring machines and carefully controlled explosions. These methods helped them break through the tough rock layers safely. The pipes themselves were huge, some more than 2 m wide. They were laid with exact care to keep water pressure steady and avoid leaks or collapse. What challenges did the builders face in all of this? What you're about to hear will blow your mind. Once the mountains were crossed, the builders faced the extreme desert conditions. In central Saudi Arabia, summer temperatures often go beyond 50 degrees Celsius, making daytime work dangerous. To manage this, workers often did their jobs early in the morning or at night when it was cooler. Besides the heat, shifting sand dunes, dust storms, and sudden flash floods made the construction even more unpredictable. By laying the pipes underground, the project reduced water loss through evaporation and protected the system from harsh weather. However, This required deep trenches and careful soil support to keep everything stable. Now, the underground river moves seawater, but seawater is salty and not drinkable. This is where desalination comes in. Desalination is a process that removes salt and other impurities from seawater are removed through a process called desalination, making it safe for people to use. It's a smart solution for countries like Saudi Arabia, which don't have enough natural fresh water but are surrounded by large saltwater bodies. However, desalination has its downsides. It needs a lot of energy, usually from non-renewable sources, which makes it expensive. In fact, producing water this way can cost 3 to 10 times more than traditional water sources. Another problem is the disposal of brine, the salty leftover from the process. If not handled carefully, brine can harm marine life and damage the environment. Despite these challenges, Saudi Arabia is the world's top producer of desalinated water. In the 1980s, it had only a few desalination plants, but by 2011, about 30 plants were working along the coast. This number grew to 33 by 2023 and then to 43 in 2024, showing continuous progress in expanding this technology. One of the most impressive plants is the Ras Al Khair Power and Desalination Plant on the eastern coast. This plant is the largest desalination facility in the world, according to Guinness World Records. It produces around 792 million gallons of fresh water every day, enough to serve millions of people and industries. Another major plant is in Jubail, consistently producing about 211 million gallons daily. While Saudi Arabia leads in desalination, the Gulf region also hosts other large plants, especially in the United Arab Emirates. Countries like Israel and Australia are making advances too, but Saudi Arabia remains ahead in the scale of its efforts. Alongside solving its water issues, Saudi Arabia has started an ambitious environmental project, the Saudi Green Initiative. The goal is to fight desertification by planting 10 billion trees across the country over the next few years. This is one of the world's largest environmental restoration efforts. The initiative plans to green around 184 million acres of land, turning dry desert into fertile ground. By doing so, Saudi Arabia hopes to stop the spread of the desert, improve soil quality, and boost food security. Planting trees will also create a natural barrier that protects ecosystems, farms, and communities from desert expansion. The benefits don't stop there. Increasing green areas in cities helps improve air quality. Trees capture harmful airborne particles like PM2.5 and PM10, which are linked to health problems such as respiratory diseases. Studies show that planting large numbers of trees can reduce these particles by up to 20%, depending on the weather. More trees also help cool down urban areas. Even a temperature drop of around 2.2 degrees Celsius is significant in Saudi Arabia, where summer temperatures often reach 50 degrees Celsius. Cooler cities mean a better environment and healthier lives for residents. Saudi cities like Riyadh and Neom are including green infrastructure in their designs. For example, the Green Riyadh project aims to plant 7.5 million trees throughout the capital, creating parks and green spaces for the community. As of 2024, hundreds of millions of trees have already been planted, with the numbers growing each year. While the full target of 10 billion trees will take time, there is steady progress. Many vulnerable desert areas are already seeing greenery return, either through ongoing planting projects or efforts to protect existing green zones. The underground pipeline system and desalination plants ensure a steady water supply for the country's growing population. At the same time, the Saudi Green Initiative is transforming the land and cities, making them healthier and more sustainable. These efforts together show Saudi Arabia's commitment to securing its future against water scarcity and desertification, while improving life for its people. Will Saudi Arabia's bold water plans hold up against the desert's harsh test? Can this underground miracle change the future of water scarcity worldwide?